This is the fish tank tutorial. We're going to learn how to make the fish swim across the fish tank and back again. And then we're going to use the puppet pin to make a seahorse wiggle. First you want to start After Effects. And you want to open up the last name, first initial 02 tutorials project file. First, before I do anything, I'm going to save this again with my name so that I don't end up having to start all over again. So I'm going to save as. See, if something went wrong, I'd still have the original file as long as I save it with a different name. Okay, so Naki V02 Tutorials AEP. So you want to put last name, your first initial, and then leave the 02 Tutorials. Make sure it goes into the correct folder. You'll see that there are things in this file already. I've provided you with several things. So if you're doing this yourself and making it up from scratch, you'll want to download the files that are on the pages back in Canvas. But if you have the original file, we've got 5 seconds, 5-second bubbles, 5 seconds of bubbles, the aerating diver, which is a layered PSD file. So this is a comp, that's the comp symbol, and there are the layers. Then you've got an AI file, an Illustrator file of bubbles, a bubble for later if you want to experiment. There's the Bubbles MP3, which is a longer sound file. You see it's 15 seconds. So this one is 5 and this one is 15. Then there's Diver Dan. Here he is. And he is what the original, he's the original figure from that I've used in Aerating Diver. Then you've got the fish tank itself with the fish, and here are the layers for that. Okay, so this is all ready. What we want to do is double click on the composition that is named fish tank to open it in the timeline. And here's the fish tank. I'm going to use fit so that I can see everything as large as I have room for. We've got the layer clownfish, which is text, the layer clownfish, which is this orange clownfish. We've got the seahorse layer, which is the seahorse in the foreground, and then we got fish tank, which is the background layer. Now let's select layer 1 clownfish, and we know this is the text. You can see that it is the text. We want to make this into editable text. So right click, convert to editable text. And now you see that the picture or the icon in the timeline changes to the T for text. I'm going to Command Save at this point to make sure we don't lose any of this hard work we've done. In the timeline layer, above the layer titles, there is column that is called Parent. For layer 1, the text clownfish, we want to set a parent of layer 2 clownfish. Now, whatever we do with layer 2 clownfish will also affect layer 1 clownfish. You can independently move layer 1 and it won't affect layer 2. But if you move layer 2, it's going to affect layer 1. So this is a cool feature that you can use. Let's Command S to make sure that is saved. Now we want to select layer 2 clownfish. Make sure the SMPTE display says 0. We want to press P so that we have position showing. We want to make sure that his tail is touching the side, so we're going to pull him back just a little bit to make sure his tail touches the side, this right side of the frame. And now I'm going to keyframe the position to set the first keyframe. Now we'll never touch this stopwatch again, or it erases everything, but this is now going to allow us to keyframe the motion. I'm going to drag the CTI up to 215. Make sure it says 215 over here. And now we're going to move the clownfish, and you can do it by dragging up here in the actual comp window. And bring him across so his nose is just touching. You'll see that that has put in the next keyframe right there. Now I'm going to drag the CTI to the last frame, make sure it says 429, and I'm going to drag the clownfish back to the beginning, to right where he started, and that sets up another keyframe. Command S, and then if you press the spacebar you can see him swim across. And you see he swims back, but he's not facing the right direction. So we're going to fix that. So he's facing the correct direction here, and if you use the triangles around this, this shows you where the keyframes are. You can click on this triangle, it goes to the next keyframe. At this point, we want to set a keyframe for scale. So I'm going to hold the Shift key and press S. And I'm going to keyframe scale. Now I'm going to move to the next frame. So I'm going to press Command and arrow to the right. So I'm at frame 216. At this point, I want to unlink the constrained proportions. So click on the chain in the constrained proportions field. Now I want to put a negative 100 in the X. And when I do that, he flips around. And now I'll go to the last frame and go back to the first frame. So you can see I'm going to Command S, and I'm going to, once it's saved, I'm going to press the button, and you can see that he flips. So now it looks like he's swimming the right way. And you can see that the text, which we did not move the text, but it is parented, once again, to the clownfish. It follows exactly the motion of the clownfish, including the scale information. Press spacebar to stop. Go back to the first frame, Command S. Okay, now, to make sure that we don't change anything on the first two layers now because they're doing what we want, I'm going to use this padlock. So go under the padlock, and this is the lock layer field. So you can lock the layers and you can't change them accidentally now. So those are locked. I'm going to Command S to make sure it's saved with them locked. And now we're going to go to the next step, which is we're going to make the seahorse swim across, and then we're going to make him wiggle. So select the seahorse. Make sure the SMPTE display says 00 and that your CTI is right here at the beginning. And now for seahorse, I'm going to press P, and I want to click the stopwatch for position on the seahorse. And I'm going to go to the last frame, and now I'm going to move him all the way across so that he's swimming across. Now seahorses move very slowly. If you've ever had a seahorse, you know this. They don't move very fast. So he's just going to go in one direction while it's all going on. I'm going to Command S and I'm going to press the space bar so you can see him moving. And he looks very stately, but he's not very interesting because he doesn't do anything. So we're going to make him wiggle. So press the space bar to stop that. and go back to the beginning. So this is the next part where we're going to use the puppet pin tool, and we will deform the shape of the seahorse to make it look like it is swimming more naturally. So select the seahorse. Now the seahorse is selected. We want to select the puppet pin tool. The puppet pin tool is up here. So click on the puppet pin tool, which is also Command P. If you want to use the shortcut, it's Command P. So I like to show the mesh. So I've got show mesh turned on. And I like to keep the expansion kind of low. So let's set the expansion for 1. I think by default it's 3. And then the triangles by default are about 350, but let's do 500. That sounds like a good idea. Okay? Now, I'm going to come down to the seahorse, and I'm going to place pins on the seahorse. And as soon as I place a pin, you'll see the grid appear. The mesh will appear around him. So place 1 on the nose. There it is. Place 1 on the head. Place 1 on the neck. Place 1 in the middle of his back. And place 1 at the beginning of his tail, just before it starts curving. Okay, now I'm going to come away from them. I'm going to press the V to get the selection tool. And once you do that, you don't see the grid anymore right now. You could always go back to your puppet pin tool and you'll see the grid. But I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm going to make him zoom in a little bit. So let's go to about on my monitor, which is set for a lower resolution than yours, I'm sure. I'm going to go to 100%, and then I'm going to use I'm going to click on here. I selected the background, but I'm going to hold down the space bar so I can get the hand tool so I can see him better. I'm going to get him positioned right there. Okay. And I'm going to go back and make sure I can select the seahorse. Now, I've got seahorse selected, and you can see that there's this puppet and mesh 1 and compositing options and all this stuff down here. Well, in order to see what you've done, because by setting these puppet pins, you have put in keyframes. In order to see that, press U. And now you can see where the puppet pins are. And you can check which one you've got selected. This is 5, which is at the tail. Puppet pin 1. Puppet pin 1 is on the bottom. It was the first one we added, and it is the nose. Now, I'm going to move my current time indicator up to 1 second. And now I'm going to change the position of the puppet pins. So this will be the next position. Oh, this is my interesting cursor here. My mouse does that. Okay, I'm going to move the puppet pins to make the body change shape. And I'm going to move up to the 2. And you don't want to move it too much or it'll start to really distort, because this is actually deforming or moving the shape, changing the shape, deforming this object, this picture. And we don't want to do it too much or it'll look really, really sort of freakish, which might be what you want in some cases. But for this, we just want him to look like he's swimming a little. He's not doing anything odd. He's just swimming a little bit. And go up to the next. Go up to the 4th. Whoa, once again, this is my interesting mouse, which does these things. Pressing my space bar to get the hand again. And now I'm going to do just a little bit more change of position here so that he looks like he's really straining to get where he's going. And then for the last frame, I'll pull it to 429, and at this point, I'm going to select all of these keyframes, not the position one, but the puppet pin one. So starting from the bottom puppet pin number 1, I'm going to click and I'm going to drag a little box around all of those. And I'm going to Command C. So I've copied that actual keyframe. And now since my current time indicator is down here, if I Command V, it will place that position. Now if you accidentally got your position keyframe, it would replace that and he would go back to the beginning and stay there. And then you just have to go ahead and deselect all these and then go back to where you could see everything. And then select the position and then move him by dragging him across. And that would be all you'd have to do. But I'm going to Command S at this point, go back to the beginning, and I'm going to, I'm going to press U to make all of these collapse, and then I'm going to make this window bigger so it'll look better. Fit. Command S and press the space bar so I can see what he does. And you see he swims very nicely. Okay,